is. Hosted by Family First New Zealand, the forum brings together a national network of family-focused organisations, scholars, lobby groups, church leaders and community groups who are part of a growing movement to bring New Zealand to a point where families are strengthened, marriage is honoured, life is protected and religious freedom is defended. This year's conference will again be held at the Dewdrop Event Centre in Manukau City, not too far from the Auckland Airport, on Thursday 28th of August and Friday 29th of August. Yes, because of demand, we're starting the conference earlier with 3 important sessions and a time of networking on the Thursday evening, and then a full-day program all day Friday. This year's theme is Courage at a Cultural Tipping Point. The culture is slowly but surely waking up to the harmful effects of the radical left-wing agenda and the destruction of family values that we all hold dear. Some countries have even figured out how to define a woman. And at this year's conference, once again, we have an amazing lineup of brave speakers from the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Dr. Miriam Grossman last spoke at our forum in 2012. You may also recognise her from the recent Daily Wire documentary, What is a Woman? But more recently, she's released an important book on the transgender agenda. I'll be doing a live interview with Dr. Grossman from New York, where she is based. Jeff Johnson is an issues analyst for Focus on the Family in the United States. We're also very excited to have Dawn Hawkins discussing the issue of pornography and sexual exploitation. From Canada, we have Amanda Ackman bringing us a warning about the slippery slope of euthanasia. From Australia, we have Kirralie Smith, a wife, a mother, and an activist for biology and truth, but who is paying the price for speaking up. And for the first time in New Zealand, you will get to hear their side of the story. Israel and Maria Folau will get to hear from them personally and not via the hostile mainstream media. And finally, we're hosting and recording a special episode of Straight Talk before a live audience at the conference. It'll be a lively discussion and you can be part of that live audience. I want to invite you to this year's Forum on the Family. It starts Thursday night, 28th, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and then all day Friday, 29th from 8:45 a.m. through to 4:30 p.m. It's the highlight of the year and you don't want to miss it. Arrange to be there. Book your flights today. Gather your friends. If you're concerned for our culture, our country and our families, you may be saying, what can I do? Well, step 1, attend the Forum on the Family. Have your spine stiffened by some fabulous speakers who will encourage, equip and inspire you. Now, the last couple of years have been sellouts, so don't delay. Go to our website, forumonthefamily.nz, for all the information you need. Register today. Don't miss this important family conference. Go to forumonthefamily.nz. Register today. Good morning, New Zealand. It is Monday morning, start of a new week. It is very cold. I've even got my gloves on. Okay, don't mock me. I'm sure it's cold where you are. Let's get into it. This is Daybreak. It is July the 7th. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's get straight into it. Got a few news items to get through. Firstly, very sad one, just monitoring what's happening in Texas. You know, you send your kids to a Christian camp thinking they're going to have a great time, not expecting a massive tragedy to unfold. The numbers are constantly updating, and I see it said there 22 missing. Apparently the latest just this morning is that there are 11 still missing, and the deceased, there's been 38 adults and 21 children. So absolute tragedy in Texas, and yeah, all we can do is really just pray for the families that are involved and the recovery or the finding of those missing ones. I did read an amazing story of a woman who was found up a tree 20 miles down the river or something. But the floods apparently were 2 stories high. So just a true shocker in those pictures there of those little young girls who are at the camp. Just a absolute tragedy. So yeah, keep them in your mind and prayers as they work through that in Texas. All right, closer to home, and back to a bit of politics here. Should children be protected from citizens' arrest? So in other words, the question being asked is, what should a retailer do when a child or a young person is shoplifting in their shop? And look, it's very common. More than 10% of retail crime is done by young people 14 to 17. And theft is the most common offence in justice data. 34% of all police proceedings are against children and 29% young people. So that's the teenagers. And here's the thing. So the Justice Minister was asked, well, if you have a young person or a teenager shoplifting, can you restrain them until the police come? Reasonably. And the Justice Minister said yes. And as you know, I've got no time for the Children's Commissioner. I think it's a botched position. Labor did away with it, ironically, and National have reintroduced it. The Children's Commissioner is basically comes under the UN, United Nations auspices, and to me it's just a woke position. We had a lot of fights with the Children's Commissioner, used to back up kids who were tagging, obviously supported hugely the anti-smacking law, Cindy Kuro at the time, who's now the Governor General. But the notion of someone restraining and holding a young person who's been caught shoplifting until the police arrive has drawn sharp disagreement from the Chief Children's Commissioner, who is adding her voice to concerns from others, including Ministry of Justice, Crown Law, the Ministry for Disabled People, that's an interesting one, and Pōnekokori. And she said this: all children have a right to be free from all forms of violence. Well, restraining someone isn't violence, dear. If you're breaking the law, you're being restrained, just as when the police turn up. I mean, is that a form of violence, arresting someone? Well, probably she would say yes. In fact, I noticed that there's a ban on restraints such as handcuffs at the boot camps if you've got a violent young person. This is the whole problem. This is why we're struggling to get kids to school, because children are being told by the Children's Commissioner that you can't touch them, you can't do anything to them. And that's the message that children are relaying to their parents as well. You can't tell me to go to school. And I hold the Children's Commissioner and this kind of ideology directly responsible for what we are seeing. And it says this: this is what the Children's Commissioner says, enabling a citizen's arrest with reasonable force against children, so it's reasonable force, was contrary to New Zealand's commitment to children's rights. It's clear the proposed changes would put children and young people at risk of harm. Remember, they're shoplifting. This is incompatible with New Zealand's children's rights commitments and duties and shouldn't proceed further. I'm keen to understand what evidence has been used to inform the proposal, given the potential harm of citizens' arrests, including risks to bystanders if a situation escalates. Now, remember, the other point that she made is, the other dumb point she made, is that more than a quarter of retail workers are themselves teenagers, 15 to 24. Children's Commissioner, it's not compulsory. You don't have to do the citizens arrest. Okay, citizens arrest is if you're in the position and you're able to deal with it, and you can use reasonable force to restrain or hold a offender until the police arrive. But Yeah, apparently this is a form of violence. As a smack on the back of Johnny's bottom when he has just sworn at you or run across the road or something like that, that's a form of violence as well, according to these wokesters. So now you know why I'm opposed to the position of the Children's Commissioner. Yeah, this was a story I noticed over the weekend. This is the problem with drugs, and apparently what we've got Vietnamese organised crime groups who are renowned worldwide for cannabis cultivation, and apparently they've been basically trafficking Vietnamese nationals into New Zealand on the premise of a false promise of employment, and that's after these Vietnamese have paid tens of thousands of dollars to obtain visas. I'm not quite sure how they obtain the visas. And instead of working in legitimate jobs, they are exploited and forced to tend cannabis plants as crop sitters to repay their supposed debts. So it's good that the police are stamping down on that. We cannot do that enough. Some people, of course, argued during the cannabis referendum that if we legalised it, it would do away with the black market. Of course, in every country where they have legalised, the cannabis market just continues, the black market continues, because the black market just undercuts the commercial market. And as we can see, exploitation of workers associated with the drug trade, we probably shouldn't be surprised at that. Fascinating article in the Australian over the weekend, and it just made this link. And of course, it was on the back of Glastonbury Festival, where some singer who I'd never heard of, and probably you hadn't either, Bobby Villain, he worked up the crowd to chant death, death to the IDF, to the Israeli forces. And this article in the Australian says, while dismaying its viciousness, the episode itself wasn't novel. Whether the cause is Me Too, Black Lives Matter, climate change, trans rights, or Palestine, today's activists repeat a familiar script. And basically it's the anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist prattle of today's college students, and it feels like deja vu. And the author Claire Lehman says, the rhetoric on display at Glastonbury often is described as woke, but the term itself offers little real insight. What we're dealing with is a fixed ideology, but a moral grammar, a way of dividing the world into opposing forces. According to this grammar, life is split between oppressed and oppressor, the pure and the corrupt, good and evil. Well, that's very binary, isn't it? There is no neutral ground, and anyone not with us is with them. Critical theory 101. Okay, we're seeing it in New Zealand. The energy was Greta Thunberg's climate protests as climate justice, which led to the international school strikes. From there, it moved into Black Lives Matter, peaking in 2020 with mass demonstrations and riots described as mostly peaceful, which they weren't. And more recently, the same energy has fueled trans right activism, visible in the rise of pronoun declarations and email signatures and LinkedIn profiles. Every time a woke movement has reached its peak and begins to recede, the energy seems to pause. Centrists and conservatives breathe a sigh of relief and declare wokeness is over. But it never is. The energy hasn't disappeared. It is simply migrated to a new home. It's a great article and well worth reading. And unfortunately, it's behind a paywall in the Australian, but it shows that basically these groups, the same groups, just move around from cause to cause to cause, funded by the same wealthy billionaires, George Soros, and they're basically professional protesters. If you want to see an example of it in New Zealand, just go to change.org. Don't sign petitions on change.org because you're basically supporting leftist causes. Doesn't matter how good the petition is that you're signing, change.org is harvesting emails for leftist causes. Just a warning there, a bit of a wake-up call. If you're in London, this is what you'll be greeted with. More than 300 pride flags down Regent Street in London. And this is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is very proud of this. Although on the tweet that he's done, this tweet here, he didn't actually allow comments. you always know when somebody's not willing to stand behind what they do because they block the comments. A little bit like the New Zealand Herald. They block the comments on social media. But many retweeted this tweet from Sadiq Khan and said, likening the flags to Nazi flag displays in Germany. The Washington Examiner said, quite a display of government power. A Harvard legal scholar mocked the neutral public sphere. Yeah, not exactly neutral, is it? And a lead pastor of the Journey Church in Tennessee said, tomorrow in London, they will send a message to the world. In London, gay sex is the highest good to be celebrated and the pinnacle of their identity. And Libs of TikTok said, London has been conquered, rest in peace. So there we go. That's London. To the United States, July the 4th on Friday, Kamala Harris is obviously not happy and posted this, mourning the fact that the United States was in such trouble. What did she say? This 4th of July, take a moment to reflect. Things are bad right now. Now, the only problem is that, see that circle that I've drawn there? That's because everyone figured out that she cropped a photo. And this was the original photo. It was her old boss. And people have said, you know, Kamala cropping Joe out is very symbolic. Is that called putting the knife in the back? So she took the original photo and did this, but everybody spotted it. So that's how bad things are. This is in back to the UK, concerns about woke banter police, and apparently the government, now the Deputy Prime Minister, who I've never heard of. Do you know who the Deputy Prime Minister of the UK is? No, I don't either. Apparently it's Angela Rayner. Anyway, she's drawn up basically plans for diversity officers to crack down on workplace banter deemed offensive. So in other words, someone who's going to go around and listen to the workplace banter and listen for hurty feeling jokes. And they would be tasked with, among other things, protecting staff from possibly offensive content of overheard conversations. The Tories, the opposition party, similar to our National Party, have branded the officers banter police and warned that they would create a chilling effect on businesses. Actually, I was wondering, do we already have that in New Zealand? I mean, with diversity, equity and inclusion, which is not actually diversity or inclusion, it's actually think like us or you're going to be excluded. But I wondered, have you got kind of that feeling at work that you better not tell a funny joke because somebody might take offence? We might already have those banter police in New Zealand already. Billboard Chris, have you heard of him? He's a Canadian, and he basically goes around with these billboards talking about biological sex and that only women can get pregnant and a woman is a adult human female, and he's got the definition of dads there. And he did a tweet and he used the biological pronouns of an appointment that had been made in Australia. I tell you, Australia's got some major issues. Apparently the government made him remove a social media post and instructed X to remove the post as well. And what did it do? It criticised the appointment of a trans-identified activist to an expert position at the World Health Organization. And it referred to the activist using biologically based pronouns. So in other words, based on their biological sex. It was deemed cyber abuse by the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia. And the E-Safety Commissioner ordered Twitter, or X, to take down the post. X only did it in Australia. So they allowed the post to remain throughout the world, but only took it down in Australia. Anyway, it went to court. And our good friends at the Human Rights Law Alliance were involved in this action. John Steinoff, who spoke at our forum a couple of years ago, and they won. They won in court. And so the hate speech thought police were dealt a setback in Australia. But it shows you just how bad things can get in Australia. Lots of peace deals coming out. People have been suggesting that Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize, and we're actually going to talk about that tonight on Straight Talk. But I was reading in the Christian Post that, in fact, probably the most important peace deal that Trump has done is in Congo, between Rwanda and the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, where there has been a systematic campaign of rape, terror, butchery against predominantly Christian nation of Congo, and it's been linked to Rwanda as well. Testimonies of looting, burning, sexual violence, and in an incredible development, President Trump has celebrated a peace deal between the two nations. And it could end a decade-long bloodshed that has ravaged the two bordering countries. Trump said, "We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years with 6 million people dead." Bet you didn't hear about that one on 1 News or 3 News. But yeah, quite an incredible effort. I saw this poll on Stuff last Friday. Rate Jacinda Ardern's leadership during the COVID pandemic. Unfortunately, awful was outnumbering excellent. So I was interested to see, is that poll still up on Stuff? I'm not quite sure that went to their narrative. Speaking of Wellington, this is on the feed for Wellington City Council with the local elections coming up. Apparently, Smurfs. You can vote for a Smurf in Wellington. Yep, local elections are coming. Have your say in the decisions that shape your community. And we've got blue-haired, blue-beard. Is that a drag queen? I'm not sure. But it's Wellington. So, is anyone surprised? Anyway, you can vote for a Smurf in Wellington, which might be better than the current mayor, to be honest. Who's going to replace Kamala Harris as a Democrat mayor for president nominee for the Democrats? This is currently the leading Democrat nominee, Pete Buttigieg. Is that how you say his name? Buttigieg. And he's the leading candidate. He's leading Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, Josh Shapiro, Bernie Sanders. So this is the guy most likely to get the nomination to compete against. And who's he going to possibly compete against in the next presidential election? Apparently JD Vance is miles ahead of everybody else. But Pete Buttigieg, and he apparently he took paid parental leave for a couple of months, even though he didn't have a baby. He's the Minister of Transportation under Biden. So that's the quality that's coming up. I did see this. This made me laugh from Babylon B. Planned Parenthood, of course, has been defunded under the big, beautiful bill of Trump's. And Babylon B said, Planned Parenthood warns that the funding cut will result in the birth of thousands of babies. Hallelujah, that's very funny. Speaking of woke, we continue our series on wokeup.nz, and we just are highlighting companies each week, and Starbucks, extreme woke. And you just have to go to wokeup.nz, have a look at the reasons that we've given them a high rating for wokeness. You probably won't be surprised. I forgot to load the image of who's on the panel tonight for Straight Talk at 8 o'clock, but make sure you check in live for Straight Talk. And I did see this shirt come through my social media feed, which I thought I might get some and start marketing. If at first you don't succeed, try doing what Bob told you to do the first time. I was wondering whether it was just Bob for me on my feed and whether it's your name on your feed. You know, is that special targeting? I wasn't quite sure. But anyway, I did like the shirt and I am taking orders if you would like them. Now, just a reminder, I'm on here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30 and Simon is on Tuesday and Thursday. And he's far brighter than I, and he does a lot more detailed discussion. And he also takes your comments a lot better because he can do two things at one time, which I can't. But just quickly seeing the comments. Rabbit Hole says, not sure why they're keeping Kamala relevant. Very good question. Peter, talking about the Congo, says, funny no one reported on this in detail. Exactly right. Robert says, I vote for Crazy Smurf. Yes. Is that the new mayor of Wellington? I vote for Crazy Smurf. And Steve says, once again with the Children's Commissioner defending, kids who are shoplifting, defending the offender again, not the victim. And that's true. Children's Commissioner is more focused on the offender and the rights of children. Anne-Marie says, how do you know how old the shoplifter is? Well, that's a very good question. Are they a child? Are they a teenager? Are they an adult? I mean, don't you just restrain them because they're breaking the law and because they're about to walk out of a shop with, you know, thousands of dollars maybe of stuff. Edmund says, weed is legal in New Zealand. Now I get mine from the doctor and on a script. You're right. Weed is legal, but it's called medicinal marijuana and it's CBD, not THC, not the hyperactive stuff. And the fact of the matter is, it goes through regulations, which is good. We didn't have a problem with medicinal marijuana, although we'd question whether it actually achieves anything. Research shows that it's good for certain conditions, treatment for when you're having cancer treatment or for spasticity, certain conditions of spasticity. Medicinal marijuana has been shown to have some benefit. So you're right, medicinal marijuana is legal. Just checking Facebook. Nigel says if you're old enough to do the crime, you're old enough to face the appropriate response and punishment and restraint. And remember, it's not compulsory, Children's Commissioner. It's just if you're able to restrain. But this is the problem. You see, if a child is physically restrained during a fight in a school, the last I checked was that teachers would have to fill in up to maybe 4 forms of the restraint. And that's why when there's a fight in the school, a lot of teachers just walk away and there's someone specially appointed, or they wait for security guards, or they don't do anything. Alison says we should arrest them and ring their parents, well, if their parents are concerned. And yeah, there we go. I did 2 things at one time, so I'm doing pretty well. Anyway, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our Family First channel on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, and if you want those alerts, then click that button so that you can be alerted when we come live. I am way out of time. It's 7:53. Have a great morning, Monday morning, start of a new week. Have a great day. Simon will be here tomorrow morning. We'll be back for Straight Talk tonight at 8 o'clock. Until then, have a great day.